Hi everyone and welcome. This is a very special reading and channeling brought to you by 1millionnights.com, where instead of the usual channeled messages, I was guided and inspired to do a different kind of reading, more like a prophecy of what still needs to take place in 2020. And I know that there's only a couple of weeks left from this year, not to mention this old paradigm. So we're speaking about a 20-year cycle that is ending as we speak, because just on the 21st of December, at least from an astrological perspective, the new era is beginning, because the usual Saturn-Jupiter conjunction take place in Aquarius, and whenever Saturn and Jupiter meet in the sky once every 20 years, that marks the end of the old 20-year-old cycle and opens the beginning of the new 20-year-old cycle. But because this is such an unusual year which most of us have never ever experienced before, due to the extremely rare Saturn-Pluto conjunction which takes place once every 500 years, and it took place just on the 12th of January 2020, well, this is a period which is like a massive, pivotal, karmic turning point in humanity's collective history. So you know how things played out so far. Well, I think they certainly didn't disappoint, because the crisis was there, the tension was there, and the need to change radically, profoundly, individually and collectively as well, was basically highlighted and made so very clear to each and every individual, regardless of their mindset, of their circumstances, which social layer they belong to, their education. So basically this is a change for all of us. So it didn't really disappoint. But the thing is, it's not over yet. I know that there's only a couple of weeks left. So from every point of view, that's a very, very short time, even for us human beings. Not to mention for the cosmos, it's like a blink of an eye. It's almost nothing, it's a flash. And yet there is still more to come. There is still things that we need to experience, both individually and collectively as well. This reading doesn't just focus on what's about to come, but also the deeper spiritual, karmic, and maybe the divine logic behind all of this. Because even though for most of us this seems so very hard, so very negative, believe it or not, this is actually something that is for the greater good, and it's going to lead us to a future where we don't ever have to experience these kind of hardships, troubles, and crisis ever again. And it may not mean that much for us, those who are adults and alive right now, because without a doubt for some people this already left a deep trauma. But for our children, for the future generations, well, this is a breath of fresh air. This is where the world will truly be kinder to them and offer them options, opportunities, possibilities, and to live a life which we simply couldn't. And this alone is reasoning enough for us to hold on and believe in the greater good and not give into the hardships and the crises that are basically dominating all of our lives, all of our cultures, countries, and our individual lives, and even our inner worlds equally. So this reading is opened by the Nine of Coins reversed, clarified by the Star card reversed. Now, materially speaking, this is a little bit doomy and gloomy. I'm not going to lie and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. because the Nine of Coins reversed means that we won't have the means, the possibility to enjoy freedom, independence individually. This can represent, it is very straightforward, either that the social distancing rules are going to get even tougher, tighter, or new legislative changes are going to give to centralized power even more control and authority over what we are allowed or not allowed to do. But at the same time, this also has a material and financial element to it, which means that even if we have resources, riches, material well-being and prosperity in our lives, as in money and everything which has to do with that, well, we might not be able to enjoy it because of the limitations or because of the massive disruption that is affecting society. And this is one of the most unfavorable expressions of equality because, we may have money, we may have done so well in our lives, in our careers, or we may have inheritance, we may have everything that we need in our lives, but if we cannot enjoy it, if we cannot use it, if we cannot basically turn it into an expression of our freedom, of our individuality, of our independence, well, that means that we're all the same, that we are basically equal, but of course in the most unfavorable sense. Like an example, if we are prevented from celebrating this and that, if we are prevented from gathering, if human contact is tightly restricted, well then how can we share the well-being? How can we express the well-being? How can we project our independence, our individuality? How can we show other people and the world how well we are doing materially, financially, career-wise, etc.? All of the expressions of the Nine of Coins. The example that I'm about to give is a little bit unfair, maybe it is exaggerated, but locked up in a house alone and not able to do anything with other people except maybe online, well then, is there a massive difference between someone who is on welfare, on benefits, someone who is merely tolerated socially, and a multi-millionaire? Yes, you might argue that the multi-millionaire has all that food and the luxury items, but psychologically, there is a certain extent to which that causes joy and, satisfaction after the happiness factor ends because of oversaturation, then they're basically equal. But of course, this also gives birth to a totally different kind of inequality, the total opposite of this, because of our psychological archetypes. So for example, big dreamers, introverts, artistic type of people, hermits, those who are always alone regardless of the external circumstances, well, for them this is not a big deal. This is just an average day of their lives. The only difference is that the whole world is living their way of existence. So anything that happens in the world is not gonna truly shock them or defeat them because, this is something that they've done all their lives anyway. So their stability, their psychological integrity, their well-being is not that much affected, whereas extroverts and people who, partied and socialized and had trillions of friends all their lives, well, for them this can be the biggest nightmare of their existence. So from this perspective, it is our archetypes that we embody which either make us be able to navigate through this or to suffer greatly. And this is a kind of maybe spiritual or psychological inequality, because after all, we're not the same. And why does all of this matter? Well, it matters very much because this is one of the changes which is absolutely outside our control. No one can do anything to change this. Like, even if people, every single living being on the planet, every citizen goes out and protests, well, that's not going to solve the problem overnight. So without a shadow of a doubt, this is the divine intelligence, the divine pattern, fate at work here. This is how that Pluto, which I spoke about, reveals the truth, the soul level core truth of who we are, of how little the material aspects of our lives matter when the whole world falls into ruin, and how much psychological fortitude matters in moments of crisis. And as I said, well, this is going to get even more intense. Not sure how, but one way or another, that Nine of Coins reversed represents an intensification of all of this. So physically speaking, that means that our liberties, our independence, our material well-being, our freedom is definitely going to be restricted even more. And the star reversed is despair. So this will sting a lot. This will truly stir up people. And for a lot of people, this will definitely start the true meaning of the dark night of the soul, when, there's only hope that can save you, but when physical reality doesn't even show any signs of hope, well then what do you do? What do we do in this situation? Now, I'm not saying that this is going to last for a long time. This is just a moment. This is just like a flash of an eye. This is just all of us collectively entering, in a true sense, the eye of the storm. So this is not the future. This is not the long-term future. This is a very short period, but when the suffering or dissatisfaction or everything that would make us unhappy with the situation is going to intensify. But from a spiritual perspective, from a karmic perspective, this all makes sense. Even though some people might find it laughable, well, how can something worse than we already have make sense? Well, moments of maximum despair, moments of sorrow are very strong alchemical powers. This is something that the ancients knew for thousands of years. This is something that the humanity's most brilliant spirits, descended Grand Masters, the Buddha, for example, used to reach enlightenment. The Buddha was a wealthy prince, but he took poverty in the most extreme expressions upon himself in order for that inner power to basically boil him, to transform him, to change him, to get critical. And even in cosmology, when something gets critical, like a gravitational field, for example, then there is a massive transformation, either a supernova or collapsing on itself, turning into a black hole, or a magnetar, or whatever. All that matters is that even in the cosmic forces out there, this is the pathway, this is the key to true change, a long-lasting change. And this way we can see that there is alchemy even in the fabric of the universe in the most scientific sense possible, because when, supernovas detonate, they give birth to very, very unique elements, some of which are the components of life, and others are extremely heavy metals, which could no way, shape, or form be created in any other way. So there is method in all this madness. And as above, so below, well, this is how sorrow and intense pain and a state of total darkness, hopelessness, transforms us into a much, much, much better version of ourselves, and that new version of ourselves is capable of much more. Because, once someone survived the deepest sorrow, well, then they can survive almost anything, and the wisdom and the experience and the true faith and trust they harvest from that experience, well, that is a life changer. And if you don't believe me, well, then let's just take a look at our ancestors, and we don't even have to go too far. Our grandparents who survived the world wars, Holocaust, famine, drought, all the natural calamities possible, well, it turned them into who they were. It toughened them. It determined them to better everything, including the world. And that is why right now we can enjoy everything that we have in our lives. Technology, the legal system, which are much better than the way they were. Like let's say human rights wise, or that women can vote and all the rights women gained, when in the world of the past this was almost inconceivable. So all the good things that we have in our lives, may they be material like technology, may they be moral like laws, legal systems, justice systems, and everything, were due to moments of maximum crisis, when the crisis turned critical. And that is exactly what's happening to us right now. And from an astrological perspective, well, Uranus is in Taurus. The last time Uranus traversed the sign of Taurus, it coincided with the Great Depression in Americas. And if that wasn't enough, next year and all of 2022, there is America's Pluto return in the second house. The second house is money. The second house is finances, value systems, even what you think about yourself, your self-worth. But of course this applied to a nation, to a country. And Pluto is the planet of transformation. All of us can see what Pluto is because of what is happening in the world right now. So yes, prepare for a massive, massive transformation. And because the United States is such a powerful country in the world, that change will 100% affect everyone and everything on planet Earth. So, none of this is anything new. Astrologers have been speaking about this for years. Just that we are actually living it right now. So we have little choice but to care. And, to work with it, to be an active part of it. Now, of course, this doesn't mean to immerse into the drama and all of that. No, we must stay detached. We must see beyond the crisis. We must see the light at the end of the tunnel, that this leads to the future, that this is a necessary evil, so to speak, and us staying strong, hopeful, positive, healthy is the only key to success, because we are components of human society, civilization, and planet Earth, so to speak. So it is imperative that we build all of this, the future, on hopes and all our greatest dreams and wishes, and not despair and doom. But it is exactly despair and doom which show us which of our desires are authentic and positive and are the right path, and which are destructive, based on ego, based on all the negative emotions like jealousy, greed, pride, etc. And it is those that we need to change, and that is why everything is happening the way it's happening, so that we can identify those, not just individually but also collectively, and harmonize them, alchemize them, transform them, surrender. And an expression of this celestial truth is that big corporations and big pharma, for example, are in a lot of trouble because those are the earthly manifestation of greed. So they have to change their ways, and not just, in an illusionary way where they just show that they are fair and correct, but in truth, in their core, they are really not. They have to be authentic, as in they truly have to serve humankind and the people and not profit and greed, because if they don't, this won't change, because we are talking about the divine intelligence here, which cannot be tricked. So unless the change is authentic and truly sources from an authentic desire to help humankind, well, the problems and the troubles won't cease. So even though this Nine of Coins and the Star reversed is a little bit doomy and gloomy, take this as just a component, something which is necessary to create a better future. So there is nothing to fear. We have to face this with courage and with belief and with trust that we can do this. And we are not our fears, we are not our sorrows, we are not our despair. We can rise above it. And once we do internally, then things will truly start to change very, very, very quickly. Especially that the star reverse is the symbol of Aquarius, and Aquarius is one of the quickest energies in the zodiac out there. So when Aquarius changes, it's instant. And the Great Conjunction is happening in 0 degrees of Aquarius, and 0 degrees is a new beginning. It's almost like when you format the hard drive and it's pure. It is the quickest it can possibly be because there's nothing on it. What is going to be on it depends on us, what we install upon it. So this is a fresh new beginning. So this is why it's really good news, because that star card is going to be upright very soon, and then is when the good times is going to start being created. Of course, until we live it, until we experience it in a very palpable way, that may take some years, at least 2021 in its integrity. But as the following cards speak, the 2 of Coins and the 3 of Coins reversed, it's gonna be a massive work in progress. So that is a really good sign, because when we're working towards a greater goal, that animates us, that motivates us, and that doesn't allow us to focus on all the negativity, but rather we're fixated on the goal, on the final solution, on our well-being. So the 2 of Coins is very suggestive because its astrological correspondent is Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn, which means concentrated earthly power, as in a solution-oriented attitude. So there is going to be progress, there are going to be a lot of solutions appearing, and of course this can represent that technology, our earthly knowledge and wisdom, our earthly understanding of the universe as in science, and all the know-how, it is definitely going to advantage us, and it will start offering solutions. It will start making things better. And this might actually represent that the whole coronavirus situation is gonna get better because of, technology. It can represent vaccines or medicines or cure, or simply our immune systems adapting. So it's a really, really positive sign. Just that it's not instant. It is a work in progress. It will take its time. So the 2 of Coins might represent 2 very important months or 2 years. But after that 2 years, everything is going to be truly better because the work in progress has already been finished and completed. So we are definitely heading towards something better. We're definitely going to have improvements, solutions. And if Capricorn, as in Jupiter in Capricorn, also represents governments and authorities, centralized power, scientists, professionals, organizations, well, they are also going to do their very, very best to, improve this situation and work. And most importantly, it's not the current format, but they are going to restructure themselves. So it is their upgraded version. And this upgrade naturally is taking place as we speak, just that we are witnessing its deconstruction, breaking it to its elements so that it can rise from the ashes like a phoenix. That's why it seems so very negative. That's why all the mistrust, all the protests, all the violence, all the, people challenging them. But of course this is strictly necessary, because if no one challenges them, how are they going to awaken to the greater truth that they need to do things differently? Now the Three of Coins reversed is not a very pleasant sight, because it means a massive crisis in the work industry, as in jobs, people's livelihoods, careers, everything that is going on in the present moment. That will also get much more intense. Maybe masses of people are going to lose their jobs, their livelihoods. But I repeat, it's not doom and gloom, because there are going to be solutions, there is going to be help. It's not like masses of people are going to starve to death and stuff like that. But it is what it takes for us, humankind as a collective, to reconfigure internally, to change our views, perspectives, principles of what a career, job, cooperation, and functioning together as one means. A job should be something which makes you feel a state of passion, a state of productivity, creativity. It shouldn't be about slavery, because even if you get rewarded, even if you get that money, the wage, the income, if it's not something you want to do out of your heart, well, it's still slavery. Or if you are in a job because you fear losing your house, losing this and that, because of fear that you won't be able to feed your children, your family, that's also slavery. And we can make this compromise. We can say that, well, we're fine with it. There is the principle that we have to sacrifice for stability, for well-being, the greater good, so to speak. But if the way we do it no longer coincides with the way the divine intelligence wishes this to function here in matter, well, then there's nothing we can do about it. We have to allow it to change it the way it wants it. And if, for example, if ridiculously that would mean going back to a basic way of living like agriculture, like in the Middle Ages, if that is the divine plan, it doesn't matter how intelligent we are or what kind of technology we possess, the divine will still find a way to make it so. But of course, if we have a eureka moment and figure out that this is the divine's intent, and we make our technologies like eco-friendly. This is just an example, so don't take it way too seriously. It is just an example. Or if we adapt our technologies to a certain way, maybe that it's not so harmful for anyone, any living being, well, that already means that we want to cooperate, that we are listening, that we are being part of the great divine architecture, so it can only lead to something more positive that we could possibly imagine. But if we go against this, if we say, well, it doesn't really matter, we have everything planned out, figured out, these are our figures and we're not changing it, well, then there's no way to cheat the divine intelligence, the great architecture of the universe, so to speak. And maybe this is why there's going to be a massive losses of jobs and livelihood, etc. So it doesn't have to be slavery, because in some parts of the world it is like a moral slavery because you agree to it and that's why you were enslaved. But in other parts of the world it's literal. It is like really, really bad, and so many of us are ignorant to it. And maybe this is how everything is going to lead to like a universal income, the existence of it, at least in principle, because that is so very much Aquarius, equality and having rights just because you are born, just because you exist, just because you are a human being. That is one of the highest expressions of Aquarius. So I really, really don't think that this is a utopia. This is becoming more real with each and every day that we head towards the age of Aquarius, as in 2024. And finally, the reading is closed by the Three of Swords reversed and the World reversed. And this is almost like a conclusion to everything that I said. The Three of Swords reversed is the moment when you overcome the heartbreak, when you overcome the loss, when you start to pick yourself up from the ground and at least emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritually desire to have a new life. When you make that choice that enough is enough, I do have the power, I do possess the strength to pick myself up, regardless of how life is, regardless of how the world is. I embody the strength to go on, to move ahead. Or let me give you an example which may put a smile on your face. Now, what this actually means is like my heart will go on kind of song. That is exactly what the combination of these two cards mean. Because, with all the hardship and crisis and the ship sinking, it is a moment of massive catastrophe. And yet for some, it is a miracle because that births them, that is their rebirth, that makes them who they truly are. It is the moment when the true divine lesson inside of them, which they were born with, finally becomes active, as in it envelops them, it becomes their identity and their connection with themselves and with the divine inside of them becomes, how should I say, real, authentic, as in here and now they're living it. And the World card, well, that is happy ending. And it's reversed because, well, the happy ending is a work in progress, so it's not instant. But the moment, that Three of Swords gets reversed, the moment they decide to overcome the depression, sorrow, or whatever the heartache, the happy ending is already beginning. Day after day, brick by brick, one day at a time, it is gonna get better. So as people are gonna be reborn psychologically because they choose to do it, this will reflect in the whole world. And I do believe that this can truly start happening before the end of 2020. And the second row of cards is just the divine guidance, which is really, really short and straightforward. The High Priest. When everything is uncertain, when our whole worlds are immersed in a deep fog of confusion, our faith and our inner truth, our beliefs can be our guiding light. Like, for example, let's say that, at the very depths of the ocean, the sun's rays cannot reach anything. There is total darkness. Some creatures are perfectly fine because they're blind. They don't even know what light means. But the most evolved creatures, well, they have developed bioluminescence, so they can create their own light. They are their own suns. And even in those depths, even in that darkness, even under immense pressure, they thrive, they're fine, they're adapted. This is exactly what we have to do, the High Priestess reversed. When things don't really add up in our conscious minds, no problem. We have an extremely powerful unconscious that is the motor of our beings. So, that is the gateway between us and the divine. So we still have everything we need. That is infinite power and mind over matter, basically. Just that perhaps right now in 2020, it's not conscious mind over matter, but rather unconscious mind over matter. But as long as we have faith, our unconscious will always work for our greatest good. It is our higher self, basically. And the two of wands, well, ironically, we have already chosen our fates. The unconscious already knows the final destination, so it's perfectly secure. It feels absolutely fine because it knows that we're heading towards something much better than we have ever experienced before. Maybe even for some people something miraculous. We are basically conquering a new paradigm, so of course it is not easy. Like for example, when humanity first started to make plans to land on the moon, for example, well, it wasn't easy. And when it actually became practical, when, it started to happen, when those astronauts were truly on the ship, on the rocket, well, we can't even imagine what they felt. But fear was definitely part of the picture, even if it was unconscious. But they did it. And after they did it, it wasn't all of it. It was just something half completed because they had to make it home alive and well. And they did that as well. So maybe when they were on the rocket, all alone and isolated, physically at least, they might have asked themselves, why did I choose this? Why couldn't it have been anyone else? But on the way home, when they were almost certain that they are gonna land in safety, then this feeling, I'm so happy that it was me, that I chose to do this. So this means the duality of a massive accomplishment. There are gonna be moments of down, but the moments of high, the moments of glory make everything worth it. And one individual's success, especially if we are interconnected, and this is perfectly true in every sense, because the fact that we exist in society means that we are interconnected. The fact that we have internet means that we are literally interconnected. Well, one individual's well-being and success can simply irradiate and spread to the whole collective. Let's say Einstein's theory of general relativity, well, it's his personal success, but it irradiated, it spread, and now it's humanity's, and it gave birth to almost everything that we have today in our lives. So just because it's hard, well, we have nothing to fear because we are actually doing it. We're doing the work. We are achieving progress. So doesn't matter if we have moments of doubt, if we have moments of fear, it is all part of the picture. It would be unnatural not to have those. Those make it beautiful. Those make it worth living. Even though we cannot see it that way in the present moment, but just wait a couple of years and you're gonna be so very thankful and appreciative and grateful to yourself that you chose to stay strong right now. Well, this kind of concludes the reading. I do hope that it was useful and helpful. Thank you for having the patience to listen through these 40 minutes. And remember, if you'd like a personal reading, just log on to 1millionnights.com, where you can choose your dedicated advisor who would be more than happy to share their gifts with you and guide you. Thank you again. Until next time, bye for now.